Hello and welcome to your update on Bitcoin. I apologize, I didn't really have much time in the last few days to make videos on this channel, so I haven't really prepared too much in terms of, script or structure. So I hope you understand, but it feels like it kind of fits the vibe this weekend after this chaos crash. And I just wanted to make a kind of a damage assessment, damage report video for Bitcoin. And what we see on this chart is that the parameters that we talked about in recent updates, they are still relevant and our support levels are still holding. Now, this is a channel where we cover Elliott Wave rarely. It's more about, we do it, but this year for Bitcoin, I talk more about the cycle overview. If you're interested more in the Elliott Wave perspective on the micro time frame, then check out our More Crypto Online channel where I cover really smaller time frame charts every single day, different coins. This year is more macro cycle overview, give you orientation, sometimes indicators that do not really that are not related to Elliott Wave. But combining these two perspectives, combining these two lenses can be very, very powerful. Yeah. And what I want to talk a little bit about what we've said in previous videos, what happened, and does this change anything? So first of all, I mentioned to you in previous videos that the 21-week EMA and the 55-week EMA, we talked about it for many, many weeks, even months, that these are relevant trend filters for the broader Bitcoin bull market. Now, you guys know, and again, we're using Elliott Wave for that we are in the very late stages of the cycle. You see that, and Elliott Wave is great for context also on the larger time frame. We do have a 5-wave move up into the October high. It's very much possible. The bull market has topped. I would not have a problem with that from a structural point of view, from an analysis lens. No problem at all. Sometimes when movements to the upside look unfinished and we then break critical supports, it would really damage the overall structure, or something would shift. It would not change anything on the Bitcoin chart if we are entering a bear market. And I know, people say it all the time, the Bitcoin price, because of institutions and whatnot, the price could not drop another 50, 60, 70%. I do expect the price to enter this zone in a bear market. Now, again, it's not necessarily this zone, 24 to 56K. It's not necessarily this zone. We might even break below it. But it's not necessarily this zone because we have not a confirmed top yet. These Fibonacci zones, and it's an estimate at the moment, will have to be adjusted with the price as we go higher. I have not yet confirmed a bear market. I find it still too early. And to be honest, we're still holding in a price range on the weekly chart. So there is nothing's broken, but if we go higher, we have to adjust this support area with the price. Okay, just saying that. And I know people say that the price could never go down into this area and drop 50%. In a bear market, it will. In a bear market, it will. And I could be wrong, and if I am, then it is what it is. I can only say what is my current expectation, and that might change based on data. I can only base my assumptions on data. I'm not making wild calls because of, I don't know, I want something to happen. I'm doing it because of what I saw in previous conditions, market conditions, and what charts normally do, right? I can only align myself with what charts normally do. But what is really important at the moment is that we haven't even broken our trend filters. There's the 21-week EMA, which is a short-term trend filter, and there is a 55-week EMA, which is a larger trend filter. Both holding still, right? So nothing is broken. People ask me about October. I said, October? Well, look, Bitcoin made a new all-time high in October, okay? And then October isn't even finished. It's not even finished. We even talked about I haven't prepared that maybe for the next video. In one of the recent videos, we talked about intra-month seasonality for October, and I said that after, normally, the first week, let's say 7 to 10 days, normally there is a correction. Okay, this was obviously kind of unprecedented, but normally the first week in October is bullish. The second week is kind of bearish, sideways, normally. Okay, this is more than sideways, but you could argue from a weekly point of view, sideways, right? But again, in October, I'm just talking about in October, normally the second week isn't great, and then second week isn't great, the third week, fourth week normally is then when it starts to recover again. We'll see if that happens again, okay? I'm not telling you this will happen, I'm just telling you what happened previously based on seasonalities. we're still holding those trend filters. Once we get a break below the 21-week EMA, and that is around 110, 111K, we will probably start to move towards the 98K area, 55-week EMA. Why is this important? Because the bull market kind of happened above this 55-week EMA. And once we start to get, let's say, daily or even weekly closes below it, I think we start to have some bullish problems. I mean, problems from a bullish point of view, but we're still holding. So that's the assessment with regards to trend. Elliott Wave gave you here a good idea of the overall context. Now, what else do we have? Bitcoin dominance. I was very clear in these videos. I even made dedicated Bitcoin dominance videos and said we should reach resistance. I also mentioned that the Bitcoin dominance chart should form a low in September. It did. And it moved up round about 11% from the September low. Now, in October alone, and we said what Bitcoin dominance normally does in October, right? Now, in October alone, just a rough measurement, it moved up 8%. 8%. We're now at around 2% up or something. If we look at the seasonalities for Bitcoin dominance, yeah, roughly 2% up. So we are up, as usually it is the case. So again, October, yeah, usually the Bitcoin dominance value goes up. And it usually is around 5%, 4 to 5%. And we have seen 8%, yeah, 5%, and it already moved up 8%, right? So it has done what it needed to do, but obviously this here shows the close. But again, just talking about the movements, we haven't seen anything unusual. Now, I got the message earlier today about someone saying, oh, yeah, but there was no way Elliott Wave could predict what happened yesterday. No. And again, Elliott Wave isn't there to predict systemic risk in a market, right? But it's a risk management tool, and it gives us ideas of tendencies. And if you watch these videos on this channel, I know many don't, because you don't know the channel yet or whatever, but those who are here heard me say, and I always choose my words wisely, guys, in videos. All the words are chosen wisely. I'm not saying stuff that I don't mean. Usually not. I'm also human, so sometimes it happens. But I said, I think it was like 3 to 4 videos ago, in all scenarios on the Bitcoin chart, it is likely that Bitcoin dominance will go up. Yeah, and it did that. And I can only align myself with probability. So we have seen exactly that. Why? Because Bitcoin dominance normally does it. I also gave you some cycle logic there in that video. And also, Elliott Waves told us that if this is a B wave, as we expected, we should reach this resistance area. So is it possible now that Bitcoin dominance has topped? Absolutely. But obviously we need to wait now for a little bit of price action to give us some data. You can't really do much with such a wick. Talking about cycle length, we normally cover that as well. I just want to show you a post I made on the 7th of October because it includes some additional information. Now, again, this gives you a broad overview. We talk about it normally in every video because I want to help people understand where we are in this cycle, that Q4 is not the time to be asleep. It is the time to be really awake. I also talked about that. It's really the time to be awake, to pay close attention to the market. It is normally the time for wild moves. Okay, I mean, yesterday was kind of unprecedented, but still Q4 is the time when the market is typically moving. And maybe, I mean, I know some of you bought the dip yesterday. I did get messages, and some completely had their portfolios crash and liquidated and everything, which is, I don't know, it's a shame. It reminds us of risk management. But as I said, Elliott Wave doesn't, you cannot blow up your portfolio with Elliott Wave because you have invalidation levels, but you need to measure your risk to stops. And what Elliott Wave, and really, nobody can really consider is, what happens if the exchange stops don't trigger. Now, the only way to consider that is by choosing a position size that even if stops don't trigger, it won't kill your portfolio. But unfortunately, most people, don't do that, right? position sizes remain high and everything. So I know it's unfortunate, but it's just a systemic risk in crypto, and also no Elliott Wave can help you with that. It's just there. It's most charts are experiments, and we can ride the trend until it breaks. Now the thing is that from a cycle overview point of view, I want to help everybody understand that we are in the very late stages of the cycle. Bitcoin, normally in the last 2 cycles, 1067 to 1061 days from low to top. We're now at, and that was like 4 days ago, and it was day 1050. We're now at day 1054. So again, we're entering the hot phase. Then we can also measure from top to top, right? From the 2013 top to the 2017 top. And that is 1,469 days. And again, I don't, not measuring right now, but that's what I measured back then. And then 1,424 days from the top to top from 2017 to 2021. And then 1,425 days, or 1,426, it was 4 days ago, so 1,430. So again, we're in that window. And Elliott Wave also takes us, we're likely late stages. But I have to say, most of the traditional cycle indicators don't tell us we've topped. Elliott Wave tells us we could have topped, and this is the cycle window. Those two, you could say, indicators tell us we could have topped, but that's more about the potential is there, and it wouldn't be unusual. But the typical cycle indicators don't confirm that. So the only thing that at the moment is, I'd say, a little bit off compared to what we talked about before, also in terms of seasonalities, I want to say. And again, I always say price action is king, right? So seasonalities give us the context. But if the charts start to give us 5 wave movements to the downside, then we have to consider something different is playing out, right? So in terms of seasonalities, you see that normally October is bullish, but not every month. It's not all the time the case, right? Not every year, I mean, right? But mostly. So it's about understanding probability-wise, October is normally a bullish month. But October isn't over yet. So we'll see how that develops, right? But historically, it's normally bullish. Now, to really summarize it or to round it up, let's take a look at the Bitcoin Elliott Wave structure on the daily chart. Because what I want to say, we haven't seen 5 wave movements to the downside. Now this, granted, this looks like an impulse down, but it could just be the C wave of a 3 wave move. So I keep the door open still for higher prices. What I want to communicate here is Bitcoin has obviously held better than many other charts. We are still above September lows, even though we slightly broke below it, but that's exactly what an ABC structure could do. So nothing is really broken other than microstructures on the 1-hour chart got broken, but the larger thesis for Bitcoin is still intact. The support filters, trend filters, moving averages are still holding. Bitcoin dominance has developed as expected. I mentioned that a rotation into Bitcoin is normal in October, and that it's worth being bullish on Bitcoin dominance in October. Now, what the altcoins do really then depends on Bitcoin, right? So in terms of Bitcoin dominance, and you saw that happen yesterday. Nobody could predict that. I mean, but then again, a crash like that, at least in similar form, I know this was kind of unprecedented, but in similar form, happens every 3 to 4 months in crypto. So it's not unusual. It's like when you're dealing with altcoins, you have to be able to stomach that. And now it's easier said than done. I know it's easy to say that, but I don't hold many altcoins, and I don't trade with leverage. And honestly, I don't have much damage to my portfolio, okay? So if you trade leverage, make sure you really understand the risk. Make sure you have your stop losses, but even stop losses don't protect you all the time, as yesterday's developments have shown. So that's the systemic risk that you have to build into your overall portfolio management and also position size management. So, but from a Bitcoin point of view, and I could be wrong, but I still see the possibility for another high here. And I still see this as the most likely outcome right now. But to be honest, it will depend on how the rally now unfolds. The next bounce. We need to see more of the next bounce. And obviously, with the wick like that, you can't really identify microstructures. But if we see like some corrective three-wave movements to the upside over the coming sessions, well, then this could be a good indication that it might just be a B wave and we get another move down. So we'll keep you updated about that. Hope you enjoyed the update. Make sure you subscribe. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.